there! Welcome to...
Hold on! It's my turn! World Wellness Green Store! Let's go explore the green wellness together!
Have you ever wondered where the water for your food really comes from? It's easy to think of it as an endless resource, but the truth is much more complex. For anyone starting a sustainable farm, understanding water isn't just important, it's everything. Let's dive into why. First, let's get a sense of the scale. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, or FAO, tells us that agriculture uses about 70% of all the fresh water withdrawn globally. In drier parts of the world, that number is even higher. So, when we talk about farming, we're talking about the world's biggest water user. The problem is, accessible freshwater is incredibly rare. Most of Earth's water is salty ocean, and a huge chunk of the freshwater is frozen in glaciers or trapped deep underground. The water we use for farming mostly comes from rivers, lakes, and aquifers, resources that have limits. Sustainable farming means working with those limits, not against them. So, how do you manage a resource you can't see? It starts with understanding what your crops actually need. Plants use water for three main jobs. First, it's a key ingredient for photosynthesis, the process that creates their food. Second, it acts like a delivery truck, carrying nutrients from the soil up into the plant. And third, it's their personal air conditioner. Through a process called transpiration, water evaporates from the leaves, cooling the plant down on hot days. If they don't get enough water, they shut down these processes, and growth stops. Scientists have a term for this, evapotranspiration, or ET for short. It says the total amount of water a crop uses through both evaporation from the soil and transpiration from its leaves. This isn't just theory, it's the number that dictates your entire irrigation schedule. Your local agricultural extension service can actually provide data on the reference ET for your area. You then multiply that by a specific crop coefficient to figure out exactly how much water your particular crop needs at each stage of its life. A young seedling needs far less water than a mature plant with a full canopy of leaves. Getting this timing right is crucial. It prevents you from wasting water early on or starving your plants when they need it most. This leads us to something called a water budget. It's just like a financial budget, but for water. You estimate how much water your crops will need for the whole season. And then you compare that to how much you can expect from rainfall and your irrigation source. This simple step helps you avoid two classic beginner mistakes, either assuming rain will be enough or overwatering just in case. And here's a key point. Not all rainfall is usable. If rain hits hard, compacted soil, most of it just runs off. That's why soil health is so tied to water efficiency. Healthy soil with good structure acts like a sponge, soaking up rainfall and storing it for your plants. When you're pumping water from a well, you also have to think about the aquifer below. Some aquifers recharge incredibly slowly, over decades or even centuries. If you pump water out faster than it's replaced, the water table drops. This not only makes pumping more expensive, but can even cause wells to run dry or the ground itself to sink. And if you're taking water from a river, you have to remember that you're part of a larger ecosystem. Taking too much water can harm fish, wildlife, and communities downstream. So, water efficiency isn't just about using less water. It's about using the right amount, at the right time, in the right place. Underwatering hurts your yield, but overwatering is just as bad. It wastes water, washes away expensive nutrients, and can even lead to root diseases. Precision is the name of the game. Think of your soil as a bank account for water. After a good rain or irrigation, it's full. As the plants drink and the sun evaporates moisture, the account gets drawn down. Your goal is to keep the moisture level in that sweet spot not totally saturated, which suffocates the roots, and not bone dry, which stresses the plants. This perfect range is between what scientists call field capacity and the permanent wilting point. Different soils have different capacities. Sandy soil is like a small cup. It fills and empties quickly. Clay soil is like a huge jug. It holds a lot of water but can get waterlogged if you're not careful. That's why testing your soil type is one of the first things you should do. And of course, we can't forget the weather. Climate change means we're seeing more unpredictable patterns, longer droughts, and more intense downpours. A resilient farm needs to be ready for both, able to capture and store water when it's abundant and use it wisely when it's scarce. There's an economic side to this, too. Pumping water costs money for fuel or electricity, so every drop of water you save is also money in your pocket. Finally, before you even turn on a pump, you have to understand the rules. Water use is often regulated by local laws and permits. Make sure you know what they are to avoid any legal trouble. Another hidden challenge is salinity. Most irrigation water contains some dissolved salts. Over time, these can build up in your soil and make it harder for plants to absorb water. Good drainage is key to flushing these salts away. It all comes down to this. Water efficiency is a mindset, not just a gadget. It's about understanding the science of your specific farm, your climate, your soil, your crops. It's about making decisions based on data, not just guesswork. When you get the water right, everything else falls into place. Your crops will be healthier, your yields more stable, and you'll be protecting a precious resource for the future. By mastering these fundamentals, we can then start to look at the exciting technologies that help us deliver water with incredible precision. How do we get water to our crops? It sounds simple, but the answer to that question can make or break a farm. Once we understand how much water our plants need, the next big decision is choosing the right irrigation method. This choice is huge because it determines how much of the water we take from a river, or a reservoir actually gets to the plant's roots. The right method isn't just a technical puzzle, it's a major economic one too. Let's start with the oldest method still around. Surface irrigation, often called flood irrigation. Imagine just letting water flow across a field by gravity, covering the soil. The biggest plus here is simplicity. The setup costs are low, and you don't need complex pressurized systems. But there's a catch. Agricultural research shows that traditional flood irrigation can be pretty inefficient, with only about 40 to 60% of the water actually being used by the crop. A lot of it evaporates, runs off the field, or sinks too deep for the roots to reach. Now, you can make it work better. If you laser level the field to make it perfectly flat, the water spreads more evenly. But on uneven ground or in sandy soils, it's a different story. The water soaks in too fast at the start of the field, leaving the far end dry. This often leads farmers to overwater just to make sure the entire field gets a drink, which wastes even more water. A slight improvement on flooding is furrow irrigation. Here, instead of covering the whole field, you channel water through small trenches, or furrows, between your crop rows. The water seeps sideways into the root zones. With good management, you can get efficiencies between 50 and 70%. But again, soil type is a huge factor. Sandy soils drink the water up too quickly near the start of the furrow, while heavy clay soils might not absorb it fast enough, causing runoff. Then we have sprinkler irrigation, which was a major leap forward. This is where water is pumped under pressure and sprayed out of nozzles, kind of like artificial rain. A well-designed sprinkler system can be 60 to 80% efficient, but they are very sensitive to the weather. On a hot, windy day, a lot of that fine mist can just evaporate into the air before it even hits the ground. A famous type of sprinkler system is the center pivot, those giant, rotating arms you see making huge green circles in fields. They can be very uniform and efficient, but they need a constant supply of energy to pump the water and move the arm. So suddenly, your water efficiency is tied directly to your energy bill. This brings us to the king of efficiency, drip irrigation or micro-irrigation. This method delivers water slowly, drop by drop, right to the base of each plant through a network of tubes and emitters. According to the FAO and numerous studies, drip systems can reach incredible efficiencies of 85 to 95% because the water is applied so precisely. Evaporation is minimal, and runoff is practically zero. This makes drip a game changer, especially in dry regions or for high-value crops like fruits and vegetables. There's even a more advanced version called subsurface drip irrigation, where the tubes are buried underground. This cuts evaporation even more and helps control weeds by keeping the soil surface dry. These systems can be even more efficient, but they come with their own challenges. You have to install them carefully, and you need good filtration because the emitters can get clogged by soil, tiny roots, or minerals in the water. And that is a crucial point for anyone new to this. Installing a drip system does UNT automatically make you a water-saving hero. If your system isn't maintained, it can perform worse than a well-managed sprinkler. The emitters can clog, turning your high-tech system into a useless web of plastic. Regular flushing and good filtration are non-negotiable. Another common mistake is thinking that technology does all the work. If you're not scheduling your irrigation based on what the crop actually needs, you can still overwater even with a drip system. Efficiency comes from smart management, not just fancy hardware. We also have to think about the energy cost. All these pressurized system sprinklers and drip need pumps. And the deeper you have to pump your water from, the more electricity or fuel you're going to use. In places with high energy costs, you have to weigh the money you save on water against the money you spend on power. The most sustainable design finds a balance between the two. Another thing beginners often overlook is that a field is rarely uniform. The soil can change from sandy to clay-like in just a few feet. If you water the whole field the same way, you'll end up overwatering some spots and underwatering others. Modern systems can use soil moisture sensors or variable rate technology to apply different amounts of water to different zones within the same field. Timing is everything, too. Watering in the cool, early morning hours means less evaporation compared to watering in the heat of the day. And if you can avoid irrigating when it's windy, you'll save a lot of water that would otherwise just blow away. Poor irrigation has other consequences, like leaching. When you apply too much water, it sinks past the roots and carries valuable nutrients with it. This not only wastes your fertilizer, but can also contaminate groundwater, which is a major environmental concern. Of course, cost is a huge factor. A simple flood irrigation setup has a low initial cost, but can cost you more in the long run through wasted water. Drip systems have a high upfront investment for all the tubes, filters, and pumps. However, in the areas where water is scarce or expensive, the long-term savings on water and fertilizer often make it a smart investment. You also have to think about the labor involved in maintenance. Checking sprinkler nozzles, flushing drip lines, or leveling a field for flood irrigation. Each system has its own set of chores. The choice of irrigation also affects soil health, particularly salinity. In arid regions, flood irrigation can cause salts to build up in the soil if there's not enough drainage. Drip irrigation can help manage salinity by keeping the root zone consistently moist and reducing surface evaporation, but you might still need to flush the soil occasionally. Ultimately, there's no single best method for everyone. It depends on your climate, your crop, your soil, your farm size, and your budget. In a humid region, a simple sprinkler system for supplemental watering might be enough. In a desert, a drip system is almost a necessity. Large-scale grain farms might find center pivots are the only practical option, while a small vegetable farm can easily implement a drip system. To make the right choice, you need a plan. First, figure out your crops, water needs, and understand your soil. Second, look at your water source, how much is available, and what's the quality like. Third, analyze your energy costs and what infrastructure you can support. Fourth, compare the initial investment against the long-term savings. And finally, design a solid plan for monitoring and maintenance. At the end of the day, these irrigation systems are just tools. Their real power, their sustainability, comes from how intelligently we use them. The most successful and water-efficient farms are the ones that combine the right technology with data-driven decisions. Understanding these trade-offs is the first step toward building a truly resilient and sustainable agricultural system. After understanding crop water demand and irrigation technologies, the next step is building a complete field-level conservation strategy. Sustainable water efficiency does not depend on a single tool, but on combining soil management, irrigation, precision, crop planning, monitoring, and risk preparation into one integrated system. Institutions such as the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service and the FAO emphasize that long-term water stability depends on system design rather than isolated improvements. The foundation of this strategy is soil moisture management. Soil acts as a reservoir with two critical thresholds identified by agricultural research institutions: field capacity, which represents the maximum usable water held after drainage, and permanent wilting point, below which plants cannot recover. Sustainable irrigation aims to maintain moisture within the functional range between these two limits. In many medium-textured soils, Irrigation is typically recommended after 40 to 60% of available water has been depleted, though this varies by crop sensitivity and soil type. Organic matter strongly influences this moisture balance because even small increases in soil organic matter significantly improve water holding capacity. Public soil science research shows that organic particles increase pore diversity, allowing soils to retain moisture while preserving aeration. This explains why compost incorporation, cover cropping, and reduced tillage are central to water conservation in open field systems. Infiltration rate is equally important. Government soil conservation agencies explain that compacted soils may allow less than 5 millimeters of water per hour to infiltrate, while well-structured soils may exceed 20 millimeters per hour. When rainfall intensity exceeds infiltration capacity, runoff occurs and water is lost. Improving structure increases infiltration, reduces erosion, and captures more rainfall within the root zone. Rainfall storage adds another layer of resilience. Farm ponds and rainwater harvesting systems provide buffers during dry periods, but public environmental agencies stress that storage must operate within watershed regulations to protect downstream ecosystems. Responsible capture strengthens farm security without disrupting shared hydrological systems. Drought planning is an essential component of sustainable agriculture. Government climate data show increasing rainfall variability in many regions, which means farms must anticipate scarcity rather than react to it. Diversifying crops, adjusting planting schedules, and prioritizing irrigation allocation during shortages to protect both yield and long-term water reserves. Water quality monitoring is also necessary. Irrigation water may contain dissolved salts that accumulate over time if drainage is insufficient. Public agricultural research institutions note that rising soil salinity reduces plant water uptake and can degrade structure. Monitoring electrical conductivity of both irrigation water and soil helps prevent gradual productivity loss. Nutrient management directly connects to water efficiency, because excessive irrigation can leach nitrogen beyond the root zone and contaminate groundwater. Environmental protection agencies identify nitrate leaching as a major agricultural concern. Aligning irrigation volume with crop demand improves fertilizer efficiency and protects shared water resources simultaneously. Sensor-based monitoring strengthens precision. Soil moisture probes placed at root depth provide direct information about water availability. And public agricultural extension programs recommend combining sensor data with evapotranspiration calculations to improve scheduling accuracy. This approach transforms irrigation from reactive watering to predictive management. Data collection over multiple seasons provides strategic insight. Recording irrigation volumes, rainfall totals, soil moisture trends, and yield outcomes allows farmers to refine water budgets and identify inefficiencies. Public research consistently shows that farms using data-based irrigation planning achieve greater long-term stability. Legal and regulatory awareness must be integrated into conservation planning. Many regions regulate groundwater pumping and surface water diversion through permits and allocation systems designed to protect shared resources. Beginning a project without understanding these frameworks creates avoidable financial and operational risks. Energy efficiency is linked to water efficiency because pumping water requires electricity or fuel. As aquifers decline, pumping depth increases and costs rise. Public agricultural economic studies demonstrate that reducing water withdrawal lowers long-term operational expenses and improves financial resilience. Surface protection also strengthens conservation. Maintaining crop residue or vegetative cover reduces evaporation, moderates soil temperature, and protects against erosion. Windbreaks reduce evaporative demand by lowering wind speed across fields, creating more stable microclimates for crop growth. Integrated livestock systems require coordinated water planning. Efficient watering equipment reduces waste, and proper manure management prevents contamination of nearby water bodies. Agricultural environmental agencies emphasize that protecting water quality reduces regulatory risk and supports long-term sustainability. A complete conservation strategy therefore includes measurable targets such as maintaining appropriate soil organic matter levels, monitoring infiltration rates annually, tracking irrigation efficiency percentages, and ensuring nutrient application matches crop uptake. Measurable indicators allow evaluation of progress over time. Water conservation in open field agriculture is not about restriction but precision and balance. By strengthening soil structure, capturing rainfall, improving irrigation accuracy, monitoring performance, and planning for climate variability, farms maintain productivity while protecting finite freshwater resources. Thanks for watching World Wellness Sustainable Farming. And don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to watch more videos about this topic.
Thanks for watching. Hope you liked it.